Thanks for staying with us. We're back. Okay, so we continue with the show, and so there's an angle I wanted to come from. The fact that today's woman is questioning a lot of things. We're asking questions, we're reviewing culture, we're reviewing tradition, and we're saying that why are things the way they were, and we want to create our new normal, our new reality. And one of which is that I'm married to an Ekiti man. And if I'm expected to go to pound yam all the time, I will tell you, sorry, I don't know how to pound yam. So now if you're telling me that because I'm coming into your culture, I must pound the yam, I must understand that every single day, morning, afternoon, night is pounding. Because that's what our own forefathers did, our mothers, that's what our other mothers did. They did that. But we are saying, okay, as long as my husband, who is not demanding it, he's not interested in you pounding him every day, but in his culture, maybe it's expected of it. So we're saying we're having new conversations now that can we eat something else? Can we have, and the one is willing. So the wife now, who is the wife of the husband that inherited, is saying, listen, this is my home. I don't want your mother to come and stay in my house. Don't say because you inherited all this land belongs to them. I didn't ask for it. You inherited it. We're having a conversation where it is me and you, a nuclear family. So in that situation, how do we now begin to modify culture and tradition based on the new knowledge and new experiences people are having? Okay, so before we hold this one now, I want to give a little backdrop from where Nima stopped. Now, the Idiogbe culture is for the first sons, right? It's the first son that inherits the family compound, and then he's expected to stay there and all of that. But we have second sons, we have third sons, we have fourth sons, we have fifth sons, as many sons as the man can have, who do not inherit that Idiogbe. So their situation is different. They stay somewhere else, they buy their own land, they have their own properties, and they too, most of the time, move away from the village to the city. The question is, wherever you are, whether you are first son, second son, third son, you have properties and you have children. How do you distribute your properties to your children? Do you also disinherit your daughters? Because that is the culture, what is, that's what it's been what has been going on for a very long time. Or do you now say, no, as long as you're a girl, you're a boy, this is how I'm going to do it. Now, the Idiogbe, like my father now cannot for any reason come, he's the first son. He cannot for any reason come to my house to stay. In fact, when he comes to visit, does not stay more than 3 days. He's itching to go back home. If I have to sort him out anyhow, I have to send things to him. I have to, if I needed to get him a nurse when he gets to that age where he can't help himself, I'll need to do that. He won't come to my place. What can the Idiogbe live in the city? Listen. Idiogbe is not in the city. Can the first son say, I don't want to live in the village, I want to live in the city? He will still maintain the village. Yes, it's optional for, I'm just giving an example, but he has brothers who are not the people staying in that house. Those ones are living in the city. So it's a different, we're not, it's not only first sons we're talking about every father who is giving inheritance right now. Those ones are living in the city. Anybody can choose to stay in the city. We also have poor people who do not have anything to inherit, who had to find their way, grow their status, get to a point where they are disinheriting again their daughters. Those are the people we're also talking about. Now, it's not like you inherited family compound. You built your own. Now. Can we begin to review culture? Exactly. Hold on. Can we begin to review? Because the way the status quo then I think is different. The why. Why was that done? Yeah, exactly. We know the why. So the why was to preserve our cultures. Yeah. The heritage, our legacy. Language, our food, our ways. And I said it's a beautiful thing on its own if you study it. It's to preserve our ways. We have become so civil now. Everybody, if they ask you, you speak English, you cannot speak your dialect, and you're wondering why your people became extinct. So it was to preserve your own. Okay. And let me explain the Idiogbe very well. So your first son has to do custom, but he can choose not to do. If you have 2, 3 other sons, the day he says, me, I not do Idiogbe, he steps out. He doesn't do your burial rights. He steps out, his younger brother or uncle comes in, and the English practice it. Who have restrictive clauses? Yeah, they do. The English have restrictive laws when it comes to their feudal rights, land and all of that, to preserve it within the home. So for instance, you have 7 lands. Once you give your daughter, I'm not advising disinheriting daughters. I inherited under Islamic law. But you give your daughters, you give your son-in-law, who ordinarily, because in patriarchy, controls everything. Yeah.
But if you keep within your sons, you can actually have your nephew, grandson from your daughter come back home. So my dad, for instance, my grandma was orphaned early. There were just 3 girls. So she married quite early into my dad's family. But when my dad was grown, her uncle, who had inherited so many land and became so very powerful because of land, said, are you not so person's son? Oh, come and see me because there's land here. He's giving back his rights to him. So that's what the Idiogbe was for. You're not supposed to take it and become so autocratic you don't even know your role. So you're supposed to preserve and keep. You decide which generation, not for only your children. But when greed came in and we lost the real reason for it, we're dealing with human factors. But culture in itself is so beautiful that it was serving us.
Okay, so my question is that, does it still serve?
It's serving us.
Let me tell you why. Because that person, the Diogbe, maybe the person like the first son, can get educated, can relocate to Canada just like his counterparts. Listen, they've gone to Canada, and he's not interested one bit. He will be sending money to the house, he just maintaining the house. He could really care less. So my question is, I agree with you. How it was done, it served a purpose. It was for a reason then. Today, 2025, is it still serving? How do we modify it such that we still preserve that culture that you're talking about? I'm just
you allow another child to carry the
load. They
are not.
We have Nigerians in Nigeria now. Everybody has not gone to Canada.
Everybody has not gone.
I'll let you respond in a second. My father-in-law has houses in Ekiti and Ife. All the children have gone. They're not there.
No problem.
I don't know the last time that my husband would go and stepped into that place.
But
imagine if it was a Diogbe. Who's good? Their couple is checking out there.
No, I think we're limiting it. What I think is, if you can't take it, no one in the immediate family can take that responsibility. There are cousins, there are nephews, there are nieces. There are people who are still in there. There are people who have property in the village today, and it's their parents' property. They've never been there, but they have cousins that are living there.
Yes.
It's just that, for me, I appreciate the why that you have just expressed, because it now explains to me that it's not about collecting this and making it my money so that I am richer than my siblings. It's because there's a responsibility and a cost to maintaining culture and, perpetuating it in such a way that we never lose it. But the problem we're having, and I think that's why we're discussing, is the abuse of culture. And I see it in a lot of things where we have begun to throw the baby out with the bathwater. If we don't understand the why of something, we will not address the issue we need to address.
So we preserve the culture in a different way, Mariam.
No, we can't. And I think this is right, where we say, if the immediate person cannot take over, the next person who is interested can. Or the next person, as long as that person is a family member, it's okay for you to be the person that inherits, but not inherit in such a way that you disempower everyone else. So that is where we're talking about is, okay, and then you're talking of someone who marries into the family. You must understand, this is the culture that you're marrying into. These are the conversations you have. Is this something I can live with? Look at, the reason I keep referring to the royal family in the abroad is because theirs is the most popular one that we can look to. Their wives, if you're going to get married to the first son or the first daughter, you just know automatically this is what your role is going to be. Their queen that passed on, we saw the story of how her husband married her. It took him some time to accept his new role as beneath her. This is a person that in his own country or whatever, he was a prince in himself. And then when you realize that this is what you're coming into, it's something you sit down and you decide, do I want to? Because there's a reason that they're doing it a certain way. It's not because they want to, it's when we look at it that they're doing it in such a way to break me so that I'm not strong or I don't have financial means. As long as we understand what is there for, then we can modernize it. Look at the Ekiti pounded yam that you're talking about. All the poundo machines, what are they there for? All the people that help us, all the chefs and everything.
It locally.
No. So now that's the problem. So you see, that's the problem. When the person insists that it has to be pounded, then it's a problem. Because the thing is, exactly, because what they want at the end of the day is pounded yam on my plate. How I go about it should not be your problem.
So let me add something. I'll come to you, but there's an angle I want you to just to highlight a bit more. I know a family, very, very wealthy man. He had so many children. He had lots of money. But the kids, for whatever reason, probably because of their education, their exposure, they were not really, the wealth meant nothing to them. They didn't really care because we are drawn to so much opulence. They
for
were
the
like,
wealth.
when you have abundance, you don't care.
They don't really care. So they traveled abroad and they didn't want anything to do with their father's money. And they stayed with, so they didn't care. The man built houses, maybe 10-bedroom house. They didn't really care. So they lived in their various countries. They married Oyinbo here, married even, and they're fine.
Okay.
They didn't want any connection.
Yeah.
When he found out that when he died, they came home,
buried
him, and left back.
Yeah.
None of their family members saw their great break light. So tomorrow they're still complaining that we don't see these children. Now the man's 10-mansion house, a 10-room mansion, is there, gathering cobwebs. The point is that if our objective is to preserve culture, instead of doing it through the route of property and heritage to the first son, is there a different route that we can begin to have a new conversation to explore such that we still preserve the culture, but not through this issue of
So the issue of preserving culture through property and being in the country will not work for the new generation of children we are raising.
Exactly.
So we need to find other ways. And one of the other ways that we find is language. So no matter where you are, you should be able to speak your local dialect. And that's why parents need to get to work. If you have started already raising the kids and they don't know the language, you need to, if you have to get a tutor for them, it has to be compulsory as well. Some of the things that they will do for you as a parent to learn this, our language. Language is very important. Now, conversations and storytelling about your history is also important. Many of us don't even know our history. So we need to start asking our parents that are still alive to give us that story. We need to pass down the story to our children. Now, these are some of the things that give them a form of identity. Wherever they find themselves. When they speak, they can tell you that I am from this place, I am from this culture, this is how we do things, where I'm from. They don't need to be there. Because if we're saying let's hold them back, let's build the houses, let's force them to come and stay in Didiogbe, those children will not, they're not like us, they will not answer you. They just need to disappear and they are gone. You see them once in a while, you call them on phone and they move on. So we need to devise other means. That language is very, very important. That language, their storytelling, knowing their history is where we can now begin to. And after a while, I realized that children who actually know their history, after a while want to come back. They want to see the place. They want to mingle with the people. They already know who they are, whether they are there or not. They will find their way back.
Let me take this call. Doctor from Enugu. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
You're live. Go ahead, sir.
Compliment on the season.
Same to you.
Compliments of season to you too.
You know,
Yes, you're live. Go ahead, please.
good morning. I can hear you.
Yes, go ahead. You're live.
Compliment of the season.
This is
We
your
said that
view.
again. Compliment of the season.
Okay, I think it depends on the region. I'm speaking.
You're listening to your TV. It's delayed. Please speak to me. Go ahead. Go ahead directly.
Listen to your phone.
It depends on the region and its place. As an Igbo man, a son. Okay.
Television is delayed. Oh, come on.
Yeah.
So he was
Let me
going to
just
talk about the Igbo
Culture.
Igbo culture, where a son is what they need to preserve. And so,
You didn't say that.
yeah. No, he took a court.
He didn't say
he
on
took a
purpose.
Supreme
that.
Court
He didn't
judgment.
say that.
No,
But that means I was
he
going
didn't
to
finish
say
saying,
something.
but he took a Supreme Court judgment to allow women inheriting the Eastern custom. Until date, the
many
judgment is
people
not
self.
they enforce.
they
you have
don't
to go
enforce.
out to another court to
Because
enforce it
culture
within
is-
families. So culture is.
Yeah, I was going to say this new way of preserving culture, apart from the Idiogbe system that you have described. And I feel that the reason we're saying that is because we don't see our culture finish. If our daughter was going to marry someone in the Oyinbo land, that her father-in-law is a lord of one, what do they call them? Yes. we will wear our ashoka, wear it high up, and every time we say, yes, my daughter is married to the lord of something. But because it's in the backyard of your village,
That's it finished.
it's now, we're traveling abroad. We don't live here anymore. They would go to the countryside, sit there with all their people, and and they respect it.
Yeah.
Of course, times are changing, so things have to be done in such a way that it is fair and it is, normal. But we're looking down on our culture too much, and I feel that yes, there are different ways to preserve culture. I think, but this is one of the important ways. Where let's look at it. It's not just a right. It's not just, you know, a giving. It's a responsibility. It's heavy.
Thank you.
It's not easy. That person has to
very
understand, you know what, I'm going to give up something to do this.
Yes.
But I'm doing it for posterity. I'm not doing it for today. And whoever is going to be a wife or part of this family needs to understand this and is willing to make that sacrifice.
Absolutely.
So
I
now,
absolutely, I absolutely like that.
So
argument.
I
We
God
like
bless
it.
you.
I like
Wait,
that
wait,
argument.
hold
I
on,
really
wait,
love
hold
that
on, Bisi. So it's a duty.
Okay.
It comes with your birth.
Wait, I'll let you go. I know you want to come with a friend.
I
Wait,
won't
calm
know.
down. You go, you enter.
Oh, yeah,
Wait, I
go.
want that her point. I want you to
This-
sink in properly.
I want to
Because-
build on it.
Yes, so because there are people listening right now, and they'll just fall in love with John.
yeah.
They're forgetting that John
He's from somewhere.
somewhere. And that your love, is a responsibility. In falling in love with him, you're going to go to Diogbe.
So when Bisi was talking about language, Miriam sort of took my thoughts out of my brain with what she said, because I was going to just counter it like that. There's a see finish, as Miriam said, and it's a duty. You're born into it. You see it, you love your family, you want to continue it. There are things we can change. Can we talk about the things we cannot change? We cannot not want the Diogbe. We cannot not want to be in the Benin kingdoms, the communities where we are from. What we can change, you can say, my father built his own as mother house. I want to renovate. I am now the head. I'm the first son. You don't have to live in the Diogbe. You take your time as Easterners to go home for certain festivals. You know your custom, you know their festivals. They cannot be doing EBA Community Day and I will forbid it as the first son. Do you understand? I will be in the village. I know who is king. I'm in the council. If my parents are... My husband, for instance, is a kingmaker in his waiting. He's a first son. And I always say to my son, you're a kingmaker. Be ready for it. Now, my son doesn't speak language yet. He doesn't even know these things. But because I am saying it into his subconscious, if in the future he's in his 70s and the family says, you are the eldest now to make the king, he will understand that from the Ogbe kingdom, this is what we do. The Ogbe family, this is what we do. So that is why they own family. We too have titles. We have lords, kings, members of council of our village, of our places where we are from. When we watch it in English movie, we understand it. When it comes here, the ballet is still finished. Because all they do, the Omonile thing, everybody is just selling land. It was supposed to be that your farmland, your 10 acres, your 100 acres of farmland, still produce what your family is known for producing. Right. If your people are young farmers, you're young farmers. My cousins don't sell land finish. I want to call them out.
Dr. Kayode, you're live. Thanks for calling. Hello, good morning, Dr. Kayode. Hello?
Hello. Good morning.
Yes, you're live. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. This is Mr. Ayo from speaking for Abuja.
Yes, go ahead, please. You're live.
Thank you. Good morning to you, ladies, great minds.
Good morning.
Program very interesting and very interesting.
Thank you, sir.
You see, the topic is quite interesting, and I think we'll have to be logical about it. Okay. There is a saying in my place. I'm from Kogi, precisely Aitolobede. They tell you that Omotobas Soleno Oso Akuyako, meaning that if you leave your origin, you are bound to suffer. That's the summary of it all. Now, let me go back to the topic. Are men supposed to inherit? This program, the topic is actually logical, if I may put it that way. Why I say it's logical is this. I am the fourth son by virtue of death, because the senior one died. I became the first son of my own parents. Now, let's assume my dad now did a property to me. I am married. My wife does not have rights to inherit anything from our own family, right? Now, when the property is left to me, logically, whatsoever I own also belongs to my wife. Is that not so?
Yeah. Logically.
So logically now, she has gotten part of her own inheritance. So there are things I feel we shouldn't try to change. If we try to change it, we are bringing more trouble into ourselves' life and into the country.
Logically, can I ask you a question? Logically,
yes, go on.
If your wife leaves you, maybe you guys separate, logically now, does she go with any aspect of the property?
Of the property?
Yes. Do you give her anything?
If I claim I own something, like I got married to my wife legally, traditionally, and otherwise, church. So the three practices of marriage I did. So whatsoever I own, if by any reason, it comes to a point of divorce, my property will definitely be shared.
Okay.
You get it?
Okay, that's
Which I
you.
don't pray to get to that point.
That's you, but that's not the culture.
You get-
Yes.
So let me add a little thing. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Culture, I'm with you, please. Yes.
Yes, I want to add something. So one of the reasons women started, fighting this was the fact that even in their husband's house, it's in name that you own anything. If anything happens and there's a separation or a divorce, you go empty-handed. So you are disinherited from your father's house. You are disinherited from your husband's house. That's how it has been. It's just a few men who would give you something, which I hardly see anyway. But that's how the culture has been, and so that's why they're saying,
Well,
you give us something.
In terms of culture. Hello, I'm not.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Go ahead.
Okay. Can I go ahead now?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Now, this is in culture. Culture as my own culture. I can't speak for others.
Okay.
My own culture is whatsoever I own, even if it's inherited or not, my wife owns part of it because I have a child too. So if you tell me I own this property, logically again, I'll be passing on to my first son or my sons. You get it? So there is no way you will tell me that my wife doesn't own anything. If my son owns something, it's also my wife's own.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kadi.
Yeah.
Yes, I was going to say something, and we're talking about this Idiogbe, and sometimes if you don't experience something, you will not have a proper understanding of what goes on inside. I was raised in Idiogbe. My father was the first son who inherited everything, so he's still in his Idiogbe till tomorrow. He's the Diogba of the family, and there are certain things in preserving our culture that religion came and made evil, watered down, made evil. And so people who now gave their lives to either Christ or became Muslims had to do away with certain things. To be a Diokba in a royal family, there are rights, you have your gods, you have your rights, there are things that you perform.
Yeah.
So when my father became born again, he decided to stop performing. So I grew up performing rites. We tie our kwacha and go to the river. I grew up with all of that. I grew up as an idol worshiper at some point, and then moved to Christianity and all of that. So we would do all of those rites because it was his responsibility after his father died to take over and carry on with the family traditions, right? We did all of that. He gave his life to Christ and realized that, no, I can't do this anymore. And there were some sacrifices that would have been made if he had not stopped doing those things. One of the sacrifices is that the first son would be in that house. He will not go anywhere else. The first daughter, which is me, from my family, will not be able to get married. I would be in that house. The family is the one responsible for, they call them the Omu, responsible for doing sacrifices for the Asaba of Asaba. That was my culture. So I would be performing those rites. And because I'm supposed to be in that home performing those rites, I cannot marry, but I can have children. Oh. You come meet me in my father's house, give me bele, I born children, I stay there, but I cannot go to another person's house. Those were some of the things that he had to let go of so that he can move on with Christianity and save us from that. And he told us, I don't want you people here. There are so many eyes here on you people. Stay far away so that you are protected. No, my brother will not wake up tomorrow and say he wants to go back to that place. So there are certain things people, especially in our culture, that because of religion, yes, people run away from. So if you are saying we have to go back in preserving that culture, we don't want to go back to those things anymore. How else can I preserve my culture? I personally, I know the history of Asaba. I know the history of my family. I speak my local dialect. The prayer now is I can help my children learn some of those. You cannot, even if I live abroad today, you cannot make me regret being a Nigerian or regret being an Asaba woman. I know my culture very well. And I dress in my culture most of the time. And I do. So I still have my culture with me. I don't have to be in my village. I don't have to be in Idiogbe to be able to represent my culture.
Thank you.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Exact example. Fantastic. Let me take Gowon. Good morning, Gowon. Thanks for calling. You're live.
Hello.
Yes, you're live. Go ahead, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, sir.
Yeah, please, I'm a first-time caller.
Welcome to the show.
So my
in respect of this and your hot topic for today,
Okay.
I just feel the need to also make my own comment because I think the African culture really needs to be updated. Over the years, even Christianity, there was certain as in what they actually believe, where they interpret certain things. There was issue of exclusivity that it is without, there is no salvation outside the church. But with time, there is need for ecumenism. So the point I'm making here is that.
Hello? So that was, I mean, I'm happy you gave us that example because that's some of the conversations modernity brings up. So it's one thing to preserve a culture, but there's so many factors: religion, relocation, exposure, to some level, makes people think, okay, I don't want to be part of that because
So
I told you right now,
What BC highlighted is the spirituality of it, and I have seen people. I mean, especially the Yorubas, you hear them, even the current Oni, you know, where they'll come into ascend to their seats and say, but I am coming with my religion, or I'm educated, and therefore these are the things that you see going forward for my people. They will go to schools because I'm educated, or because I'm a Christian. This is what we will do going forward. Of course, it's not easy. They meet a lot of challenges, but if they're able to show that it is better for the people, you see this continue to change. Just as the last caller, Gawan, was saying, is that, you know, we need to update. We cannot keep staying the way that we used to. Even the ones that we're looking at in different parts of the country, if we see how they did it in the 17th, 16th centuries, it's much different today. So definitely change needs to come in. Change that shows that that recognizes human beings. There used to be a time we used to talk about human sacrifices. How dare you today? Do you understand? We have evolved. We're growing. So for me, the spirituality is one end of it. The cultural, what we are talking about, the language, the way of life, you know, and some of those things. That's another part. And I feel that we can still do, like I said, we can still do that without throwing the whole thing away. You know, that you live in a different country does not mean that the next generation or next relative cannot take it. We have seen we've seen in our storybooks where a child is supposed to get, you know, is supposed to take the seat, but he's unable to for various reasons, and then a cousin somewhere takes it, a nephew somewhere takes it, or even a child that was born outside the community for whatever reason comes in. The idea is this culture, this way of life must be preserved so that the generations to come do not lose it.
So I think we've all agreed that we have to preserve it. It's just the method in which it's preserved that we have to use it. Let me take this call. Francis calling from Akwa Ibom. Thanks for calling, Francis.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
Let me sound like I'm a first-time continuous scholar.
First-time business scholar.
Business scholar?
When you clap
Okay.
the hand, when you clap the hand, it's sweeping me. So that's why I have to say first-time continuous
Turning color.
Now, our lady from Delta, she made a very valid point that I was like, I felt very emotional because this whole tradition of tradition, people made those traditions. People made them. Some of them were made out of ignorance. That we cannot continue to uphold when we believe what we believe. My mom was the president of her age grade, where they pay masquerade. And there are lots of things attributed to that masquerade. At a point, she told her people that I will no longer be part of it, not because she will not be part of the age grade, but when it gets to the masquerade angle, she will not be there. But she's still part of the age grade. They said, okay, if you will not play, contribute money. She said, no, if I contribute, I am part of it.
Yeah.
So she stopped it. Before you know, one after another, they all stopped. In her own age grade now, they've totally eradicated that. And I believe that is some of the things we that are enlightened today can try to see how we stop these things, because they are not helping us. Your colleague there who said, oh, she cannot go back. No, ma, you can go back with courage. to teach them, to let them know that these things that we are doing is not supposed to be so. Yes, we have good traditions that we can sell to the world, but there's no way we can tell the world today that the first daughter will sit down in the house and be using Omo to be touching everywhere. What are you touching? You are touching nothing. Nothing comes out. So we need to begin to enlighten people. Let the people know that some of our cultures were brought up by people who did not have understanding of what they're doing. You want to bury a king, you need 2 heads. What for?
Right.
Those things are the things we need to drop. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So
custom have changed. We must accept that, custom changes a lot of times. In my own custom now, we no longer do, in my family particularly, we no longer do burials. So we bury our dead and everybody goes home. We bury, and I buried my father-in-law. I saw the difference. Where they bury and we're cooking and we're just feed and we're just going through rites and rites. So people change. You vary these things as it works for you. But you don't negate and demonize your entire culture because you've gone to school. It's as basic as going to school. Just go school abroad, come back. You just go collect education. You just adopt another culture and you negate the ways of your people. So we must talk them carefully. We must talk them carefully. And the Idiogbe, as it's practiced in Edo, not this one that BC described. It's about the first son remaining in the first ancestral home of his ancestors. He can renovate it. You know, no, there's a spiritual. Yeah. So that's in the house. So they're different. So there's the spiritual which you perform. My grandmother's family are the priest's family, but that's not my business. My father's own family, nothing concerns them. So I say that's not my. You can come in. Yes, that's not my story. So you can hold on, Morayo. You can choose to want to vary that spiritual. You can come in with an enlightenment like my dad did and say, what's the wastefulness of this burial? My children should be exempted. I choose to exempt myself. And you can vary it based on your own.
No. So this one, religion. Listen to how it happened. Religion made it look like what you're doing is evil. And you have to change it.
Yeah. No, but you heard the caller now saying those things really, are they good? Are they serving us? Well, how many times in this modern days have we heard of the heads that they used to bury anybody? Did we not bury Anoni recently? Did we not bury Anoba Bini recently? Yeah. Did you not carry out custom the way it was done? And did we hear of any heads that were attached to it? So you will not hear, but that means what you don't hear is not promoted.
Exactly.
So don't allow somebody demonize, because when Queen of England died, now only coffee we see, we didn't hear too.
We didn't hear too. After all, this used to happen then.
So this comparison
now the Queen of England I demonized our own in the first place.
So we shouldn't allow somebody just cancel our own. Let them not cancel our own.
Cancellation. What I'm saying that
don't be like that.
No,
we don't resemble her.
So what I'm saying, what we've been having, I think when she used her example, she said she knows everything about her culture.
No, this didn't cancel it.
She said she knows everything. So what I'm saying is I wanted us to acknowledge the reality
of the times
and see that this culture we're trying to preserve, though spiritually, physically, materially, in different ways, can we begin to modify it?
What we're saying is that we have been modifying it. Things have been coming up. There was a time we were killing twins.
Yes.
It doesn't happen anymore. The things are different. What we are saying is, in modernizing and modifying and updating, don't throw the whole thing away.
Okay.
We don't make sure that we preserve it in such a way that we have the culture, we have the language, we understand the good part of it, the positives, and that is what we should try and push for.
So going back to the original topic of how do we preserve, how women are disinherited, and then who should take care of the aging parents? Should it be because you gave the inheritance or not? I mean, let's wrap up on that.
Of course not. It's not. I would love you as my parent. You brought me here. You raised me and everything. Whether you give me, they did not give me. So I know I'm a daughter in that part of the world where they disinherit women. So I wasn't given anything. But it doesn't mean I will not step in and do what I need to do for my father because he raised me, right? But I would have wished that it was different, because growing up I always felt that I was less because I was a woman, and I would not want any of my girls to feel that same way. So I've learned that lesson, and I don't want to transfer it to my children. That's the conversation. Every child that I have is equal. If I have anything to share, I will share equally. I'm not going to say because you're a boy and because you're a girl, right? So that they don't have the same mentality of I am less than a man because I am a girl.
That's part of the modification.
Yes, that we are talking about. But I will do my bit you know, as my daughter, as the first daughter to my father, and take care of him if I need to do that.
I think what I've learned here is the importance of always knowing the why of something. And so for me, you know, when it comes to if conversations like this will ever come up, I would let children know that sometimes with responsibility, you get some privileges. And the privilege is so you can carry out these responsibility. And if the other siblings understand that there is a reason why one particular child is getting something that seems different or better than yours, it's because there are things that that child needs to do. Right. And as long as that child also understands that this responsibility does not mean disempowering your siblings, you know, then we have a good story. It's not, sometimes fairness does not look fair, but, you know, it's in the, you know, it's in what we finally do, in the work that we do and the impact that we make, that we now see the fairness.
I wanted to end with Engineer Tijani's message. You want to say something?
I wanted to say something. So it's unfair to have more resources and expect the duty of somebody with lesser one. So when you have inherited more as a man, or whether, you shouldn't expect beyond love for your aged parents. Provision, responsibility, and the duties that come with what you have taken, you must perform it and find a way to balance it. So you are not the man that will come and be talking about mental health when it comes to your parents aging or your wife not accepting. You must find a way to do that balance because you got more.
We have a message, just one here. He said it can be modified. The gods don't, they chop shawarma and pizza too. Jare, make we give them mayonnaise for sacrifice instead of blood.
Fire for Engineer
says that culture evolves and should be dynamic and not stagnated. As long as no child is the architect of when he was born, where he was born, and which culture to inherit, any cultural practice that is capable of causing infractions among siblings should be expunged. We need to start having conversations about cultural practices that are unfit for our dynamic world. There were reasons why these practices came into existence, but we are not reassessing whether these reasons leading to the establishment of these cultural practices will still fit in the 21st century. Lives evolve because life is dynamic, and so should culture follow suit. Any culture that is unfit should be expunged and look into the book of history. I think that's all we can take on this segment. When we come back, we should have our guests here. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.